Franklin Tomorrow's Frank Talks. We are so glad you're here. My name is Alina Bell, and I'm chairman of the board this year. I would like to extend some thank yous. First to High Hopes Development Center. Thank you so much, Gail Powell, and the rest of the High Hopes family for allowing us to be here today. Let's give her a round of applause. Next, I'd like to thank our sustaining sponsor, Williamson Medical Center. We are so grateful for your partnership. Let's give them a round of applause. And my last thank you is to Renaissance Bank. They are our presenting sponsor today, and we again are grateful for their support. Now we have a video. Please give your attention to. It is the Bone and Joint video for Williamson Medical Center.
When we move into the Bone and Joint Institute, we'll be moving into a 121,000 square foot of state-of-the-art medical office building. It will have over 64 exam rooms. It will have 6 ORs for our ambulatory surgery center. We'll have over 5,700 square foot of physical therapy and rehabilitative space. We'll also have CAT scan in the building as well.
To be able to organize the care in such a way and have a facility where under one roof we can serve many different aspects of orthopedic care, it is going to lead to benefit to our patient.
We wanted the most modern facility with all of the innovations that are happening in orthopedics.
How we schedule surgeries, how we schedule studies, how we arrange therapy in a new way, and I think that's really probably the most exciting side of it.
With all of us together in this amazing state-of-the-art building, it's really going to, have unique features that you won't see anywhere else.
It's more than we could have dreamed, honestly. It's going to be a really unique facility.
The building looks incredible. It's much bigger than I thought it would look.
I think that it's unifying to have everyone under one roof. Over the course of 40 years, to be able to connect with the community and grow, and now we have 13 subspecialists that really provide cutting-edge care to the community, really sets us apart.
It's fun to see the structure start coming up. It's one thing to look at it on a piece of paper, but to see the structure come to life is pretty exciting.
I think that for a lot of years as a clinic, we were putting up a lot of walls between our patients, between our employees, but we needed to have a bigger table with more seats at the table rather than putting up walls. And to me, that's what that building demonstrates, all coming together.
It's going to be our own billboard by the highway. You couldn't ask for any better location.
The ability to have patients come through the front door and in many instances have the ability to treat them from that time until the time that they leave the practice, all in one area, I think is great.
One of the things that our partners were really starting to feel like we were losing was this idea that you're getting spread out. And one of the things we wanted to do is say, let's bring it all back together. Let's bring all of our physicians together where we can be a part of a family again.
We've planned that building to last and be in this community for a very long time and have enough room to have many more surgeons come on board over time.
The Bone and Joint has been around for over 40 years in this community, and this seems like this is the culmination of what Dr. Farrell started over 40 years ago, and then we brought this to kind of a forefront. Being on the campus of Williamson Medical Center is a fantastic relationship between the two entities.
Patients in our mind want convenience. They want high quality services. Obviously, they want it to be provided in a convenient and safe location. I think the building delivers that. The physicians are second to none in orthopedic care. The building itself was designed with growth in mind. Our goal is to be the premier orthopedic destination in Middle Tennessee.
Good morning. Thanks so much to Williamson Medical Center for sharing that video with us. We've got some folks here from Bone and Joint and from Williamson Medical, and we appreciate that. And the open house is next Monday from 4 to 6 at Bone and Joint, and you are invited to see this facility. And I love what Dr. Thomas said about having more seats at the table. And that's what we're trying to do here today. We've got some other partners, okay? It says it's working, but it's not. So we have some other partner groups here with us today. We've got friends representing Friends of Franklin Parks. Raise your hand, and we appreciate that. What we're going to talk about today is really about being inclusive. And Franklin Tomorrow spends a lot of time trying to bring people together and engage, collaborate, advocate. That's our mission. And we want to engage everyone in our community. And so today we're going to talk about inclusivity as it relates to play and making sure that everyone gets to have fun. I love that question about what's your favorite childhood memory. Mine is falling off the dome at school and wearing a dress, but hey, that's living that for the next 9 years of my life because I went to the same school with the same people. I love the swings. I love swings, and we'll talk a little bit and see some unique things today, I think, that allow everyone access. But I'm first going to introduce Lisa Clayton, who is the City of Franklin Parks Director, and she's going to give us some context about where we might be seeing this ability for inclusivity. So, Lisa.
Good morning. How are you? Wow. I feel like I need to break out in karaoke with this thing. You don't want me to do that, but I could, if y'all don't pay attention. So, I'm so excited about being here. This is a topic, of course, it's always, as anytime I speak, it's always a wonderful topic to talk about parks, because that is a passion of mine. Recreation is a passion of mine. I've been doing this for 20 years, and you never see the same day. And so I'm so excited that some of my team is out here from our Franklin Parks team. But I'm also very proud to share that with the mayor, and there are several aldermen that are sitting in this room. Without those people, and as the city team, we wouldn't be here today being able to describe what is about to happen in our community. It's with their foresight, and we're excited about being able to bring this to our community within the next few years. And so it's really about me kind of setting the tone today, because I think sometimes it's about finding the right place and being at the right moment that makes the difference. And so Southeast, even though we are most likely going to rename this particular area, in the Goose Creek area of our community in Paytonsville, where you have a lot of new growth, Berry Farms, you have Water's Edge, Ladd Park, there's going to be over 7,000 homes in this area. And one of the things that we did over the last few years is we took a look at, from a park standpoint, because parks is not just about recreation and the ball fields and things that you will hear me talk a little bit about today, but everyone in this room recreates in a different way. And it was about capturing something, and it's not about building just a specific thing, it's about capturing the entire family, or capturing the interests of a full individual. And so that's what I want to be able to share with you today. So we have purchased land, and this is the Harpeth River that runs through. This is Carruthers Parkway that runs all the way toward Williamson Medical. If you come across, you're headed toward Long Lane, like you're going toward the Goose Creek area. So that kind of gives you the perspective of where we are. This area right here, this is Lockwood Glen. A lot of the homes have already been constructed and is under construction. And this is Lockwood property. All of this will be named one park at one time. But right now, while we're going through the planning stages, we've considered it two parcels. The city purchased this property about 1.5 years ago. And it's around 77 acres or so. And the southeast, which you see the wonderful drawing here today, that is around 188. So let me give you a perspective. If you're familiar with our park system, and you're familiar with Harlansdale Farms, it is 199 acres. This is 233. So what that does is allow us, is we have almost 1,000 acres of parkland in the city of Franklin. That's hard to believe. But it's something that our residents require, and it's something that we try to meet a standard for 6 acres for every 1,000 people, and we meet that. But we have to do it together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of take you through. We're going to talk about inclusive playground. 2 years ago, let me share a quick story with you, because I want to be able to get to them. 2 years ago, we were in the middle that we're about to launch this master plan. And I'm part of, as everybody probably in this room, you're part of or at one time you were part of an organization, and I'm part of the state organization of Parks and Recreation individuals. Back? Yes, thank you. So, in saying that, we're about to start this process, and we had Barge, we already contracted with Barge at that time, which is our consultant firm. And one of the meetings that they had put out in Middle Tennessee was for directors only. And that was a meeting for, you don't usually just get Parks and Recreation directors, you usually get everyone. But they had a meeting with just Parks and Recreation. It was about inclusive playground. See, everyone had already started talking about it and in my ear saying, Lisa, you've really got to include this. See, we include inclusiveness, ADA accessibility in every playground we do, but it wasn't that it's fully inclusive. It was always somebody or something was left out. So when I attended that meeting, here walks through the door the people that you will hear from today. And what it did for me, it was about like going to church. It wasn't about, yes, I understand and I want to be there. For me, it was an eye-opening experience, because then I began to understand that it was more, that I need to make sure that everybody's included when we just start this discussion. And so I set forth, and it was very important that if we're going to build this part, we were also just as important that we're going to build football fields and lacrosse fields. That's what you see here. And we're also going to build a canoe launch and all of this parking, and we're going to have a spray ground. And you've got infrastructure that leads all the way out that'll have beautiful landscaping. I love flowers. And so my horticulture's in the room, he knows. You know, I can appreciate a good ball field, but everybody else loves the surroundings. That's part of it. Well, that's for me too. All of this is included. We're going to have, this is just a huge legend of everything that we're going to have in here. We're going to have a walking trail that not only surrounds this park, but also on this side, we have master planned this property as well, and it too will have walking trails. So you'll have over 4 miles of walking trails if you never left this area. So that captures somebody. But the reason we're here today was this area. Is when I went to that session, and it was a 2-day session, I don't know that I could have written any more than I did in those sessions, because it opened my eyes that we've got to look at the best way that you include it, that the entire family's over here. Or it could be that while brother or sister is playing ball or whatever they may be doing in this park, there is a place. It's also about grandparents. That was a huge part for me, because I have a 7-year-old who for the first 5 years, she stayed with my mom to kind of share with you how the experience went. And so, but they're in their 70s, and that's still very young in today's time. But they're not as agile as they were in their 30s and 40s. And with a 6-year-old, they had to keep going. So they were looking for places to go. But even in my own park system, they couldn't go everywhere. And that was important to make sure they could. So when keeping kind of a personal thing in mind, that's the reason that it's so important. Right here is where the inclusive playground will be. The goal for the city of Franklin is truly this to be a partnership. The goal is that I will build the infrastructure as part of the park system. Our team will come in and do the groundwork. We'll have what we've seen out of Murfreesboro and our other surrounding counties that we've actually visited is you need a pavilion, you need a restroom that can accommodate any person for anything. And so as the city of Franklin, I'd like to be able, that be part of this plan, and that's what we have made as phase one. We will be able to do this area along with this and some walking trails and our infrastructure, but that will be part of this. It will be up to the community as well as to engage. So the sponsorships and the things that you will see today, that's when we'll build this as a community playground. When I say Tinkerbell in our community, it's a playground that was built out of the love of a child, but the community built it. It wasn't about just city. And when a community gets behind something, then you've got ownership. And it usually lasts, as Tinkerbell has, over 23 years now. So that is where we're headed. So I'm going to kind of turn this over. I will be here. I brought the master plan in. It's on our website. As the city, we're welcome to share. But it's not about hearing about the master plan. This is about the inclusiveness that what we're going to put in this master plan. And so I'm so excited about being able to share. So I'm not sure who's going first.
We both.
John, okay. Well, come. Thank you. And I will turn off and I will turn on. Landscape structures.
I was awesome, wasn't I? No, thank you.
Lisa, while we're doing that.
So, yes.
How much of that is flood zone with that river running by?
Sure. So out of
the 188, that we have up here, there's over 50 acres outside of the flood zone. And so we will look, but as part of what we know in the industry is a lot of times with our playgrounds, you can put it in the floodplain area. You also can allow for stormwater and incorporate those features in that. So if you do have some minor flooding or that type thing, it can be part of the construction. And that is, we're going to be working with our engineering department and stormwater that we incorporate all of those kind of features, and this shouldn't be any differently as well. But thank you, that's a great question. So I'm going to turn it over to John.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you so much for inviting us. We're honored to be here and be involved in such an exciting project. I'll introduce myself and then share just a thought with you to help what we feel kind of helps us to all kind of get back into that special place of when we remember growing up and how play was valuable to us in the different ways that we played. As Lisa was saying, everyone recreates in their own personal way with their family, with their friends. So take a moment and just close your eyes for a second. Remember what it was like when you were playing as a child, where you played, who you played with, what you did together, the feelings that brought to you, and the experiences. Because one of the things that we believe that's so valuable and important for all of us is for every child to have that opportunity to play and to experience those joys and those challenges and those successes.
We're having some tech issues.
Play never told me you can't, or don't, or you shouldn't, or you won't. Play never said, be careful. You're not strong enough. You're not big enough. You're not brave enough. Play has always been an invitation, a celebration, a joyous manifestation of the cans and wills and what ifs and why nots. Play isn't one thing. It's everything. Anything. Play doesn't care what a body can or cannot do, because play lives inside us. All of us. Play begs of us. Learn together. Grow together. Be together. Know together. And as we grow older, as the world comes at us with you can't, or don't, or you shouldn't, or you won't, we come back to what we know. That imagination, will never fail us, that words will never hurt us, that play will always shape us.
So we believe that play always shapes us as the people that we are today, and we deserve, everyone deserves the opportunity to have that experience. And so that's what we want to create. That's what we want to foster, are those opportunities for every individual to share the joy and the learnings of play. So our short talk this morning is going to kind of give a high-level overview of what we consider to be inclusive play and the purpose and the meaning and the value that it brings to communities. And then over the lunch hour, we're going to go into a little bit more deep dive into characteristics and features of what really makes an inclusive environment. So I mentioned I'm John McConkey. I'm with Landscape Structures. I'll let Jill introduce herself as we get started.
Yeah, good deal. Do I need a mic? Can you hear me? I'm a very loud soul, naturally. But my name is Jill Moore. I have a really neat job with Landscape Structures. We flew in from Minneapolis yesterday, so I'm really enjoying this cold Tennessee day because I feel like it's Minnesota summer. I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, so I have a full appreciation for that. But I have a very unique gig at Landscape Structures. My degree is in industrial design from the University of Illinois, and I get to work on the marketing team as well. So I get to use a lot of this input that I've gathered through a lifetime of experience of using this wheelchair, of having this disability, and just sharing it to make sure our products are just a little friendlier for everybody, and that we're really considering how we can make sure everyone can come and play. Because I've had a very active life. I've gotten to do a lot of playing, I've gotten to do a lot of very fun things, to the extent that I forget I'm in a wheelchair. And no one ever knows what to do with that, because how dare you actually give somebody the opportunity to love their disability? And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, and I have the best time with that, because no one ever expects it. So I always, I tell my dumb nephew, who I love to death, but he's just such a punk. I told him it was because I played too much Fortnite. I told the kids I used to babysit, it was that I really hacked off my first babysitter. And recently I got to go play dodgeball with my mom's second grade class. If any of you ever get the chance to go play dodgeball with a bunch of second graders, you need to take it because it's the stress reliever you never knew you needed. So I'm gearing up, I'm ready to go. I'm doing my stretching because this is a serious affair. So I was getting ready to rock outside of the gym. And this little girl comes up to me and said, "What's wrong with you?" And I looked at her and I said, "I didn't eat my vegetables." And I saw the fear of God that day. But the real reason in our trust bubble here, I'll tell most people I'm only in it for the parking, but in reality, I was born with spina bifida. And so my spinal column didn't close all the way. So I grew up playing a lot differently than other kids. And that is my personal story, that is my own, I own that, and I don't owe anybody that explanation, but I like sharing it, because this is all about sharing. The journey of inclusive play is talking and learning from each other on how we can continue to expand. So if you have a crazy cool inclusive play experience, jump in, let us know, because we want to hear about it, because this is a journey. And so it's come a really long way for me. This was my very, very first 5K. It was with my grandma, and I'm fairly certain she lapped me. And that was trying out for the Paralympics in 2016. So when we do this right, when we introduce inclusive play, we're really giving the kids the opportunity of a lifetime to go have a life, which is the coolest thing in the world. So inclusive play, it's been around for a while. It started around 1990, this idea with the Americans with Disability Act came into play. So they wrote the ADA. In 2000, they wrote guidelines for the children's play space. And in 2010, those guidelines became law, and we haven't touched them since. So it's really dated information if we're in our communities just relying on the ADA, which is why we're all continuing to have this conversation to go a bit further, like Lisa was saying.
And one of the other things to be aware of is that communities are really striving to compete with one another, to attract businesses, to attract an educated workforce. They want to be known for being thriving, livable communities with a high quality of life. And they recognize that investing in their parks and their resources are a strategic asset to help achieve those goals. And when you design parks to be more universally designed and inclusive, you're creating opportunities for a broader segment of the population all ages, all abilities. And that fosters one of the key aspects that we're all striving for, which is more social cohesion and equitable opportunities for everyone.
And so the cool thing about that is thinking about who's coming to play and if we're inviting everybody to come to play. And so in 2015, they did a study worldwide on what people with disabilities spend annually on travel. Does anybody have a guess what that number would be? In 1 year, all across the world, what do people with disabilities alone spend on travel? Throw out a number, anybody.
$1.5 billion.
Close-ish. Keep going.
2 billion.
Keep going.
5 billion?
17.3 billion people with disabilities spend on travel. And I myself, I'm important. I travel with an entourage. So you can usually at least double that number because we're thinking people are traveling with their friends, with their caregivers, and are going on these excursions. So if we're building these inclusive parks, people are coming to them religiously. And I know personally people with disabilities can be your biggest evangelist. If something works for us, we are going to tell the world, and we are going to be very loyal to that. And so we're going to bring everybody we know to these parks. We're going to spend time in this area, going to local businesses, local shops. And so it's really, considering this isn't just an altruistic thing to do anymore, it's a boost. It's really a positive thing for the economy. Because these spaces, they create this awesome opportunity where everyone can come together, regardless of gender, socioeconomic status, race, ability status. Everyone's coming together and they have this common ground to play. And so they get to experience this idea of social equity. And when I joined this industry, inclusion and social equity, they were kind of buzzwords to me. I never really spent a lot of time thinking, well, what does this mean? And so it took me back to, I was thinking, well, when did I first get to experience social equity? I was 9 years old. It was my very first wheelchair basketball tournament, and we headed up to Baltimore, the great state of Maryland. We played one game on we were shrimps. These goals had to be this tall. I could dunk on it now, but it was back in the day and I felt cool. And we get to Maryland, we play one game, and then Maryland Spring gave us 3 feet of snow. And so me and a bunch of other 9-year-olds were snowed in. We were in such an off-brand Red Roof Inn that I'm fairly certain it had a blue roof. And we were in a conference room about the size of this room, and we were a group of scholars, let me tell you. And so we invented a little game. And this game was known as Ramorama. And Ramorama was very simple. One kid started at this end of the room, one kid started at that end of the room, and you pushed full speed until you smacked into each other in the middle, and you hoped, oh God, they fell out of their chairs. It was fantastic. We played that for a week. We had the best time. And I remember the parents didn't love Ramorama. Ramorama was not a hit with mom and dad. And they came to our coach and they said, Coach, this can't be good. We have all this brand new equipment, these new sports chairs. This probably isn't a good thing to do to them, right? And I remember my coach looked at them and said, I do not want a speck of paint left on those wheelchairs. And that was the coolest thing I had ever heard, because that was the first time I was a kid. I wasn't breakable, I wasn't fragile, I was playing, I was all the other kids, and we were running around having the best time. And Ramorama wasn't quiet, and we were all snowed in there, and so all of the other kids in the hotel came. We were in our chairs, we were out of our chairs, we were playing tag, we were crawling, but it didn't matter what ability any of us had, all that we were playing together. And so if we had to playground, we could have done some serious damage with it. But that's what it's all about. Because in those moments of Ramorama, what are we doing? We're talking to each other. We're learning from each other. And more than 85% of adults with a disability report losing their job due to a lack of development of these social skills. So it's really important that we're fostering these spaces so kids can come together and learn how to talk and play. And so this was a playground we built up in Minnesota. If you guys ever get the chance to come out, this is one we go to on a play tour. But we found this video. It was done by a local NPR group, and I just think it does a really good job at showing the importance of this play.
We didn't go to playgrounds. We tried it when Ben was younger, pre any other children. I only had Ben. Go! Ben is very outgoing. He's super likable. He's very open when people ask him questions about being in a wheelchair.
And then out here is just a slide and a fireman pool.
His power chair got stuck in the wood chips. He panicked. He cried, and he didn't even want to get out of his wheelchair. He didn't even want to go on a swing. He wanted to go. He gets to be a real kid. How's he gonna talk about his mom behind her back? You know, all the things kids do. They're bonding, their little secrets, they're all those parts of being a kid.
It's like a water tunnel, kind of. And you don't get wet unless they turn off. Getting sweaty out here. Well, the first time she came here, she cried. She liked it so much. So I think she feels really happy that they built a park like this that we can all go on.
He can do that. He can be apart from me and do stuff. And I don't even know what words to use.
So my favorite part about that video is he doesn't say this is a park kids in wheelchairs could go on. He said this is a park we can all go on. And we found out later his brother actually has an autism diagnosis. And so it truly is something for the whole family to be able to go and connect with. And this is another important thing to think about, because people with disabilities are the nation's largest minority group and the only one that anyone can join at any time. And so if you twist an ankle and you're riding around on those sweet little butt scooters, that's a temporary disability. And so we're wanting to make sure we accommodate this for everyone, because people are wanting to experience the world the exact same way they did before. And so it's an important thing to consider. So about 1 in 5 Americans has some sort of disability. That's about 20% of our population. And that cracks down to about 6.5 million school-age children. And so if we're thinking about that, and this is just those with specific documented IEPs in the school system, it says about 13% of kids enrolled in school have a disability. We believe that number is closer to that 20% because we are looking at those undiagnosed kids. We are looking at those without the formal IEPs. And if we think about what is the ADA really looking to do on our playground, it's all about wheelchair access, right? It's all about looking at our orthopedic impairments. We're missing a whole lot if we're really just relying on the ADA. Because out of that 13% enrolled in school with disabilities, this is only looking at about 1% who are living with an orthopedic impairment. Otherwise, it's some cognitive disabilities, learning disabilities, visual, hearing, things like that. So out of that 6.5 million school-age children, 6.4 million of them have some sort of disability other than an orthopedic impairment. And that's why it's really important to continue this discussion about going beyond ADA so we can accommodate everyone. 1 in 59 kids has an autism diagnosis. When we presented this about 5 years ago, we would ask who in the room knew somebody with an autism diagnosis, and maybe 4 or 5 hands would come up total. And now, how many of you know somebody with an autism diagnosis? It's something that's becoming a lot more prevalent, and we want to make sure these kids are still getting the chance to play. And so we're really looking at what is going beyond ADA design. So we went out and we did a survey, and we asked people, what do you expect out of ADA compliant design? Do you expect that it has to be by law required, wheelchair accessible, that it has to have play features for motor coordination disorders, that it has to include cozy spaces for sensory disorders, and does it have to have auditory features for visual or hearing impaired? And 57 of the people we polled by law, 57%, believe by law that the ADA requires all of these things. The only thing it kind of sort of looks at is the top one, kind of sort of looks at wheelchair access. And we also asked parents, well, do you believe that kids of all abilities should be able to play together? And 7 out of 10 parents said yes. We don't know what's wrong with the other 3. We can fight them as a collective. We'll rally the troops. But this is to say that people want and they have this expectation for what the ADA is doing, and we're really missing the mark if we're relying strictly on it. Because the ADA is a numbers game. It's all about formulas. It's I have to have this many events on the ground that are considered accessible, my ramps have to be this wide, my slope has to be this tall. It's not necessarily about what kind of experience are you getting when you're there. So we're really missing the spirit of what we're trying to do if we're relying on that ADA checklist. Because in theory, provided that this has an accessible entrance somewhere cut out, this is 100% ADA compliant play space. And I've been in her shoes often. I remember looking at playgrounds, and I'd still want to play. So I would ditch my chair, I would crawl around, I would try to keep up with my friends. I'd come home looking like an urchin, and my mom wanted to kill me. But we want these experiences, so we're going to try. So we need to make sure it's compliant and open, accessible, and inclusive for all.
So I just want to share that often people will say, so we understand, first of all, Lisa said that every playground that you have in your community will meet ADA. That's required. That's a federal mandate. But people don't necessarily understand, well, that's the bare minimum. And that's what Jill is highlighting here. And when we talk about creating inclusive environments, we have to always include that accessibility as the starting point, but then go beyond that to really understand what creates an inclusive environment. And I want to share with you that oftentimes that's for the community to decide for themselves, to define what is inclusion for us. What we'll share with you are some best practice recommendations, but I think it's a dialogue that you have with your community and the individuals who are planning to come in and come and use that space, and also those who you may want to invite that aren't necessarily coming to the table, but reaching out and getting their input and the voice of that user to define what does it look like for us.
I got to meet one of the women who wrote the ADA laws, and I'm thinking, all right, I gotta be nice, I don't want to tread on your territory. And she said, I brought up, yeah, ADA, and she goes, ugh. And I was like, well, this ought to be good. And she looked at me and she said, the ADA is the worst you can do by law. And so a lot of the times in these communities, people are saying, let's celebrate it. We've got this great ADA compliant park. Check them on that. Because a lot of the times that's exactly what they have, ADA compliant. And so it's about going beyond. It's not having our special needs, limited edition kids over here and our normal kids here. It's about creating a playground for everyone. And so it's not ensuring that the kid in the wheelchair can use every single thing. It's all about making sure there's so much on the playground, there's something for everyone to connect with. And so that's what we really looked at, is the secret sauce for how do we do that? What does an inclusive play space design include? And we wanted to make sure we did this right. We wanted to make sure we heard the highest successes and lowest failures to make sure that we're learning from this constantly to ensure that we're promoting the best way to do this possible. So we have a killer advisory board of people who just do some rock star work in this field and are able to say, yes, this is what we need. We work with Dr. Lucy Jane Miller. She runs the STAR Institute in Denver, and they do a lot of work with sensory processing disorders. A lot of really passionate parents, therapeutic rec specialists, landscape architects, people who have a lot of experience in this field and can say, yes, this is what we need. And so we kind of broke it down into our secret sauce. When we look at these environments, we're really looking at our experience, our environment, our experience, and how do we use the space. And so it starts with the environment. I mean, it starts with being comfortable when you show up there. I grew up in the South, and if grandma ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And so it was just making sure that there are places for grandma and my parents to sit, to be comfortable while I played, so that they could allow the child to stay for longer. It's looking at access. Do you want to speak a little bit about that?
A number of you raised your hand when Jill asked if you knew someone affected by autism. And one of the things that we've learned through our work with specialists is that transitions can be a very challenging time for kids with sensory disorders or emotional disturbances. And so having a space at the entry point where a family can come and gather before they move on into the rest of the play area, where they can kind of visually become oriented to the space and kind of plan out their activity. First, we're going to go over and swing on the swings, and then we'll try and find the slides. It helps people to become more comfortable in that space. But we gave this presentation to a group in Atlanta, and one of the parents said, oh yes, but actually it's even more important when it's time to leave, because that's when we have our breakdowns.
Yeah.
So if we say, oh, we're going to meet at the hopscotch area in 10 minutes, Then they all gather back at the hopscotch area, and by that time they're halfway out to the car. So it can be a very strategic little design feature that has a great impact on the success and the experience of the user group.
And then we look at things like safety. How many of you guys are familiar with the idea of a runner? So that's when somebody with a diagnosis goes into that fight or flight mode. They see a totally overwhelming structure and they're out of there. They're not waiting on us. And so considering things like boundaries on your play space, it goes a long way in ensuring that everyone can come and play. We did a focus group where somebody came back and said, you built this great new park, but the only park in our community that we can take our kids to is the dog park, because it's the only thing that's completely fenced in. And so considering things like that based off of your community's needs, it goes a long way. And then we look at things like play flow, just making sure everyone can move through this space, and we'll elaborate this later today, but it's making sure everyone can move around a space comfortably, but still be engaged. I mean, again, I travel with an entourage. So these wide accessible pathways, this allows people to move through the area and for a child never to feel like an obstruction. I grew up feeling like the Great Wall of Jill. I'm still fantastic at making everyone's way all the time. But we don't want kids to have that stigma, that they're the reason someone else can't play. So we consider these accessible pathways and the flow of play and how people move around the play space. It goes a long way. This was when I was fancier and had blue hair, but it's really working with your designers to little details as well. I mean, the example when we talk about play flow, a really good one is thinking about where do you go when you go on the slide? And so an on-deck transfer provides an opportunity for somebody to transfer out of their chair and meets them halfway. They can slide over, orient themselves in space, and move down the slide. And that way their chair is sitting off to the side, they're still not an obstruction, they have an opportunity to become oriented and head down the slide and still be a part of play while that's all happening around them. And then we look at the experience. These are elements we really want to make sure we include on the play space because they go a long way. We want cognitive elements, we want things like names, shapes, numbers, literacy prompts, physical benefits, things that challenge motor coordination, things that challenge that muscle input, cooperative play, the opportunity to talk and look at things and engage together and have this experience of play side by side, and sensory play. That's really an unsung hero on the play space that we talk about, is just this opportunity to engage your senses through play. So I hope we all know our 5 outer senses. We'll talk about it later if you don't. But something we really look at including, which is a very cool multi-generational activity, and I think High Hopes actually has this, is music. People love making noise, and so having that opportunity to come out and play. I got to visit the playground with a boy named Dash. He was 3 years old, and he had the cutest little wheelchair I've ever seen, and we had to play I Like to Move It on the bongos at least 8 times, and that doesn't translate at all. But we're also looking at our vestibular senses. This is our sense of motion and movement. So when we spin around really fast and we get really dizzy, that's our vestibular senses at work. And so things like swinging, swaying, rocking, rotating, spinning, things like that, that all connects to our vestibular sense. This is Owen. Does anybody know what that is on Owen's ankle? That is a tracking device. Owen is a runner.
Yes.
And so the cool thing about including these sensory elements is Owen had a tendency to run around. His father said he was never really connected with playgrounds. And he got to the playground this day. This is in Wilmington, North Carolina. He checked out everything on the playground. It didn't last at all. And in the very back, he found this swing. And this swing was able to provide that sensory response to calm him enough to where he connected with it and he didn't leave. Owen became king of the swing. And so day 1, no one was allowed on the swing with Owen. He was king of the swing. But by day 2, he had kind of gotten enough of this feedback, this sensory input, this calming sensation to let other kids on with him. So suddenly, because we're providing that sensory connection for a child, he's getting the opportunity of engaging with everyone else. He's a part of play. And he acquired a posse, so that's cool. And then we look at things like proprioceptive input. This is our input to our muscles and joints. And so we're wanting to ensure that there's all sorts of different elements. This is climbing, different forms of climbing, because climbing up a ladder is different than climbing up a rock wall. So we're wanting to ensure that we have all sorts of different elements for kids to experience with that. Overhead events were a great way to do that. That was my bread and butter. I could hang upside down all day long. Could I land it? Absolutely not. But I looked cool for a while. And then we want opportunities for social play. I believe this is Drive Up Latte Stand that was actually happening here. But you put a table on a playground and goods and/or services will be exchanged. So creating that opportunity to just chat and have some imagination. And this was a project we got to work on that I think does a really good job at showing the benefits of just this social play. Because I got to be on the photo shoot for this, and it was the coolest thing in the world, because not a single kid looked at me and said, "What's wrong with you?" It was all about, can we spin our spaceship fast enough, because we have to pick up a pizza on Pluto. And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world.
Will it be on any TV or something? The meteor shower! What? The meteor shower! Bigger? There's the meteor shower! That's what's up!
You need a suntan? Are we working on that?
Yeah.
All right, we going to get a tan. Hope you need one too.
Yeah. Just hold on!
Kids of all abilities, people of all abilities can enjoy this product. So we've got seating, but we've also got standing areas. We've got areas to park, you know, for wheelchair users to be comfortable. It's a perfect example of what we call inclusive play.
I think it's a very cool, inclusive solution to a sensation that's kind of difficult to achieve when you're in a chair. To be able to just engage in this thing quickly and in so many different ways is a very cool way to approach play. This piece specifically gives us all kinds of options to be able to take it on however we choose to. Being able to socialize during play is very important because, I mean, that's how we're learning from each other. That's how we're playing together.
What I like about this is you can be creative with it and imagine things with it.
You get to like spin it around. It's really fun. This is the best thing in my life.
We get to make new friends. We get to meet new people.
Yeah, it's really fun playing together with someone else.
One of the most important aspects of the We Go Around was maintaining a smooth transition from the playground to the deck. So what we did is actually tied both the deck and the skirt back to the main post to keep a consistent gap and a smooth rolling surface.
One of the safety features that we incorporated into the We Go Round is a resistance mechanism that will control the speed rotation to a fun yet safe speed.
Accessing this piece, the We Go Around, is beyond cool because of the solution laid out for how we move around spatially. This gap allowing me to slide my chair on pretty easily. I can spin around here. I can move around in this area freely. The We Go Around, we're able to sit and we're able to face each other and we're able to engage however we choose to, but most importantly, we're able to play together.
So that thing was way fun to be a part of, and I think, I was talking to John about this morning, it gives kids the opportunity to contribute. It gives, growing up as a child, I remember I had a really hard time finding out where in play I could provide value. And one day they let me play flag football with everybody else, and they forgot I was playing. And so I walked up, got the ball, and got a touchdown. And I went home that night to my mom and I said, I will be joining the football team tomorrow. And she hated that idea. And so if we're giving kids these opportunities to be a part of it, to be able to contribute, to help spin in the middle, grab on from the outside, it's showing them that they still have value in this social circle and they can be a part of that play. And so we also really look at making sure we're looking at things that are developmentally appropriate, and we want graduated levels of challenge. We want kids that are coming back and that they still have something to strive for and reach to on the play space. So when they knock out the stairs, they head on to the next climber that's a little bit tougher, and then they keep going. And I think in today's society, everybody wants to bubble wrap everything, and that's not necessarily what we want to do. Because we need kids to get this sense of risk, to get this sense of, this is hard and I've got to figure out how to conquer it. And I may fail, but on the other end of that, I could totally knock it out of the park. And so we owe every single child the opportunity to experience this risk and the success that comes alongside of it. And then choice is something we also promote. When I was growing up, the most important choice I ever got was what kind of macaroni and cheese I wanted that day. And I think that's still the most important choice I get. But we want kids to have the opportunity to go to the play space and to get this autonomy, to get this escape from their disability, this escape from the control that usually comes with going places, because a caretaker and a lot of people are usually doing things to somebody with a disability. So we want to give them the opportunity to go and choose how they engage with the play space, where they want to go and how they want to play that day. And then just activating the space. This is a big thing for the community to come together and do, and so just really shouting it loud and proud from the rooftops that this is something that we're working on. So this was a playground they actually did. Drew Brees sponsored it in New Orleans, and so it was really well promoted. A lot of people knew that it was going in. It was in the big park down there. They got the design for it, which is a massive asset. This is how you share your vision with the community and with stakeholders. And you don't get to see the picture of Drew, so yeah. But also, so this is kind of something that comes together in a really cool way that we're able to put together for stakeholders, just to say, hey, this is what we're working on in the playground, this is our vision for what it's going to look like, and this is what it's doing. And so we have these inclusive play slide decks that show the specific piece, show what it's all about, what skills it engages, and this has been a great fundraising tool for people to say, hey, we're raising money for this particular piece and this is the why. Just kidding, you do get to see Drew. And so he did a really cool grand opening, and that's one of the best ways to celebrate Mission Complete here, is just bringing people in to say, hey, we did it. And so he came and he partied and he ran around on the swing. This is another grand opening that happened recently out in California. And these are just some glamour shots of the capacity of what there's to do out there. This is Miracle League in Gallatin, actually. This is some of the designs made up for that. And this, how many of you guys have checked out Mary's Magical Place? So this was the original concept render for it, and this was the product. And so it was showing this vision, and this vision coming to life. This was an inclusive playground that went in up in Minnesota, and again, just the same thing. This is an asset to show everybody this is what we're doing, and this is why. And that's how it panned out. Because the coolest thing in the world is every single person has that innate desire to play. All of us want to get out there and play as hard as we can, and we are going to achieve some amazing things when we do so. So I want to end with this video of some, we stumbled upon this on Facebook, and I think it just does a killer job at just showing what this is all about.
Right. These babies are on the slide. Look at that man go. Here comes Riley. Riley! Whee! You can do it all by yourself like a big girl. Camden, you're so strong. Watch out for Camden. Take turns. Can you do it, baby? Yeah. Oh, I forget. You told me you're not a baby. You're a big boy. That's right, ain't it? Riley, slow down. Wait your turn. Wait your turn. Wait your turn. Hold on just a minute. Just a minute. Let's wait on that big boy. Yeah, look, he can do it all by himself and don't want any help. Okay, let's wait on him. Give him just a minute. I see you. I see you. Got the prettiest smile in the world. Riley, hold on. Okay. Be careful. Okay. You're an impatient thing, huh? You almost got it. You want some help? No. No? Oh, I didn't think. Riley, no. Wait. Wait on brother. Wait on brother. When he gets on the slide, then I'll let you go up, okay? You got it? Wait a minute, Riley. Let's see brother. Let's see brother get on the slide. Come here, Camden. I'm ready for you. I'm going to catch you, big baby. Big boy. I'm going to catch you. You ready? Here we go.
So that's all we've got. Thank you for bearing with our technical issues. My mouse decided it didn't work anymore. So if you guys got any questions, let us know, but we love getting to talk about this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Gail and some of her team are happy to give you a tour here today at High Hopes, where you can see the facility, but also their playground, which will give you an example or an idea of what you can see. And I just want to say, when I think of ADA compliant, I kind of think of ADA complacent. We can do better as a community. Williamson County can do better as a community than to be compliant and to be complacent. Let's be inclusive. That's what we want to be. But Gail,
They'll just meet up here.
yeah, if you want to go on a tour, come up here. And some of you are joining us for lunch later and a little more in-depth conversation. And if you're interested in staying for that and didn't get an RSVP, we're happy to have you. Just let me know. But we're going to go on a tour, and then we'll be back here at 11:30 for lunch and a further discussion. So thank Jill and John for being here. And also, if you'd like to take some information with you, Sheila Stewart and her team from Landscape Structural Recreational Concepts are in the back of the room and have some information. And we are so glad to have our partners here today. And thank you again to High Hopes.